Season 3 of The Wheel of Time didn't just raise the stakes, it rewrote the rules. Layered beneath the surface of every battle, whispered in every prophecy, and flickering in every stolen glance were hidden details that reshaped what we know of the pattern. For longtime readers and first-time viewers alike, this season overflowed with nods to the deeper lore, foreshadowing that titans like a noose and character evolutions so subtle you might have blinked and missed them. But not here. In this deep dive, we illuminate every hidden thread Season 3 tried to bury. 1. The Illfin appear in shadows. For book fans, this was the moment to hold their breath. Matt's journey into the Tower of Genjai was teased in previous episodes, but when the Illfin finally appeared, fox-faced, gleaming-eyed, cloaked in surreal, dreamlike geometry, the show cemented its commitment to the mythic weirdness of the Wheel of Time. Their appearance wasn't just visual spectacle, it was a promise, a signal that Matt's future will be unbound by logic and tangled in fate. And the architecture. If you look closely, it mirrored the twisted symmetry described in The Shadow Rising. This wasn't just a cameo, it was prophecy breathing. 2. Suin Sanch's Death Shatters. In a stunning deviation from the books, the show chose to kill off Suin Sanch, cutting short a character arc that, in the source material, plays out across multiple books. This wasn't a throwaway shock. It was a carefully calculated strike at the stability of White Tower. Her death, orchestrated during Aiendas' rise, represents a radical shift in tone. Nobody is safe, not even the Merlin. But more than that, her death symbolized a loss of institutional memory, one that may haunt the tower more than any Forsaken. 3. Rands Ascension among the Aiel. When Rand is declared Karakarn, the ceremony itself was striking. But the real magic was in the reaction shots. Watch the Wise Ones, especially Ceriliate and Amy's. Their subtle exchanges signal more than respect. They suggest calculation. The Aiel, as always, are playing a longer game. Rand's acceptance of this title also included flashes, literal and metaphorical, of Ruidian's Terangrial history, reimagined visually through bursts of ancestral memories. Each flicker hints at a burden deeper than even Rand knows. 4. Lanir isn't just seduction. In Season 3, Lanir steps out of the shadowy ranks of the Forsaken and into center stage. But what makes her presence chilling isn't the overt displays of power. It's her manipulation of Rand's dreams. These scenes, seductive and surreal, are more than fan service. They reveal her strategic genius. She pushes Rand emotionally, grooming him with affection while isolating him from Morin. The color palettes shift in her scenes, soft golds and reds, mirroring her allure and danger. You're not just watching a villain, you're watching an architect of chaos. 5. The use of Bailfire. Bailfire makes its debut in a flash of white-hot destruction, so jarring it seems to break time itself. And that's exactly the point. When Rand wields it, what's undone is not just physical, it's narrative. The death he reverses with Bailfire ripples across scenes, subtly altering events that had already unfolded. Characters look disoriented. Lines of dialogue are repeated. It's the show's way of letting us feel the metaphysical consequences. This isn't just a weapon, it's a warning. 6. Morin's fall isn't a weakness. Stripped of her connection to the One Power, Morin's journey this season is one of identity, not ability. Her confrontation with Lanir and her desperate attempts to remain useful speak to a deeper fear. What does a guide become when she can no longer light the way? And yet, in her most vulnerable moments, Morin becomes more dangerous, not less. She begins to rely on wit, politics, and sacrifice, rather than the power. In one shot, her posture mimics Lan's, subtle framing that tells us they are now equals, not just Warder and Isedai. 7. Perrin's wolves aren't just allies. Throughout Season 3, Perrin's bond with the wolves deepens, but some are the signs that this connection is more prophecy than partnership. In one haunting dream sequence, the eyes of a wolf reflect the image of a burning city. That's not an artistic flourish, it's foreshadowing. Perrin's journey is no longer about balance between man and beast. It's about sacrifice. And if you listen closely to the growls, you'd hear a distorted version of the Tinker's song, hinting at the core conflict of his path: violence versus peace. 8. Matt's luck isn't random. One of the cleverest hidden details in Season 3 is how the show visually reinforces Matt's uncanny luck. Dice roll in his favor, arrows miss by inches, and enemies trip at just the right moment. But if you watch closely, the camera lingers on these events just a second longer than it should, subtly suggesting that something is nudging outcomes in his favor. It's not luck, it's the pattern bending around him. And when he meets the Illfin, the weaving intensifies, his surroundings flicker, as though reality itself is rewriting. Matt's luck isn't coincidence, it's destiny under a gambler's grin. 9. Iguains' chains are more than physical. Captured and collared, Iguains' storyline is one of the most harrowing and thematically loaded arcs of the season. The physical depiction of the Adam is accurate, but the brilliance lies in the cinematography. As Iguain resists, the show begins to warp the frame itself, closing in claustrophobically, dimming colors, and sometimes muting background sounds. The very act of oppression becomes visual. Her struggle with Rena is gut-wrenching, but it's her refusal to break that becomes a form of power in itself. In the silence of her resistance, she begins to shape her future and the towers. 10. The Forsaken sigils reveal a secret alliance. Throughout the season, symbols appear in Forsaken-related scenes, etched in doorframes, stitched into garments, hidden in dreamscapes. But viewers who paused those frames found something astonishing: a repeating triangle of interlinked symbols, each one corresponding to a known Forsaken. The triangle isn't just art design, it's a cipher. One corner is missing, a subtle foreshadowing of a new Forsaken to be revealed, or worse, a betrayal among the existing ranks. The show is planting the seeds for a civil war among the Forsaken, hidden in their own iconography. 11. Lan's quiet fury mirrors the Blight. While Lan speaks little in Season 3, his presence remains thunderous. Watch the episodes set of the Blight. The landscape reflects his internal state, jagged, tense, and smoldering with rage. When he finally fights alongside Morin again, the change is immediate. The terrain softens, light breaks through. These environmental cues act as a visual extension of Lan's emotional arc. He's not just a blade, he's a storm waiting to be unleashed. And this season showed that even storms must sometimes retreat to gather force. 12. Tom Marilyn is still in the pattern. No, you didn't see him, but you heard him. In one tavern scene, a faint melody plays in the background, the same one Tom played in Season 1. The lyrics echo lines from a prophecy yet to be revealed, suggesting that Tom isn't gone. He's simply been moved off the board for now. The showrunners are using musical motifs to tether us to characters we haven't seen in a while, keeping them alive in the pattern even when they're absent from the screen. A subtle nod to what's to come. 13. The Tinker's song as a key of the pattern. What seemed like a soft interlude in earlier seasons takes on new gravity in Season 3. The Tinker's song, once seen as sentimental, begins to echo at moments of extreme violence. Its melody hums through scenes where characters make impossible choices. Perrin's transformation, Rand's decision to use Bailfire, Iguains' capture. It's not coincidence. The song is becoming a thematic thread, a counterbalance to the destructive power rising in the world. And if you caught the final hum in the last scene of the final, you know it's building towards something more than peace. It's a call to destiny. 14. Grandle is already manipulating events. She hasn't been named, she hasn't been shown, but she's there. In a sequence set in Caerdian, a highborn lady flits between nobles, whispering half-truths and sowing subtle chaos. Her eyes linger too long. Her smile holds venom, while the script calls her Lady Selin, a misleading name meant to evoke land fear. It's almost certainly Grandle, cloaked in political intrigue instead of dreamscape horror. Her signature is subtle corruption, and she leaves behind destabilization wherever she goes. The Forsaken are no longer acting alone. They are moving as players on a vast board. 15. Tarman Gayen looms in every shadow. Every season builds toward the last battle, but in Season 3, the subtle signs of Tarman Gayen's arrival multiply. Children are born with strange marks. The dead are seen walking in the periphery of dream sequences. Blades rust unnaturally fast. And in one blink and miss scene, an old seer in tear drops her cup as a tremor runs through the city, not caused by Rand, but by something else entirely. The world is beginning to fray. These are not accidents. These are the threads of the pattern unraveling, one prophecy at a time. 16. The Aiel's Veil culture, revealed in gesture. A standout subtlety lies in how the show portrays Aiel honor. Rather than explaining their customs with exposition, Season 3 shows us, in one confrontation, a young Aiel hesitates before veiling, only to be quietly corrected by a wise one's stare. That moment, silent and brief, illustrates the deadly seriousness of veiling before battle. This kind of world-building through body language, rather than explanation, respects the audience's intelligence and builds immersive depth without breaking pace. 17. Aiendas' first step toward Wise One status. When Aienda begins to challenge Rand, not just follow him, it's more than stubbornness. It mirrors her journey in the books toward becoming a Wise One. She observes, learns to listen without speaking, and even begins referring to the future in terms of obligation. The show doesn't need to say she's on the Wise One path. Her actions whisper it. The scene where she stands outside Rand's tent, watching the stars, mirrors a similar moment from the fires of heaven, tying the visual language of prophecy to her personal evolution. 18. Varen's eyes reveal the secret she carries. Varen Mathwin's introduction was quiet, but if you notice the shift in lighting during her scenes, you saw the show hinting at her double life. Whenever she appears, a faint shadow cuts across her face, even in broad daylight, visually marking the secret she carries as a member of the Black Ajah. Her tone is always calm, but her gaze lingers a fraction too long on Morin and Iguains. Every gesture, every word, is layered with the weight of hidden allegiance, brilliantly foreshadowing what's to come. 19. The Blight breathes when Rand enters. As Rand journeys deeper into the Blight, the vegetation reacts subtly, but unnaturally. Vines coil tighter, leaves twitch as if aware of him. In a particularly eerie scene, moss seems to pulse in time with Rand's footsteps. These touches suggest the Blight isn't just a corrupted forest, it's a living response to Tavern energy. The land itself senses Rand's destiny and tightens around him, a foreboding echo of the corruption that awaits at Sheol Gul. 20. Goen's blade work mirrors Galad's form. Though Galad hasn't yet appeared, fans of the books will know the brothers' connection. In one sparring scene, Goen uses a sword form that fans will recognize as Hummingbird Kisses the Honey Rose. This particular style, associated with Galad in the books, is shown here as part of Goen's training, suggesting they once trained together or shared a teacher. It's a quiet nod to Galad's upcoming role and a subtle layering of brotherhood even before they reunite on screen. 21. Elaine's power surges during key emotional beats. Elaine Trakand enters the show with grace, but her strength in the One power is shown with subtlety rather than spectacle. During moments of stress, like when arguing with Naniv or healing Iguains, her weaves glow brighter than necessary. Her emotions clearly amplify her strength, a trait reminiscent of Naniv. The show doesn't call this out explicitly, but it's a foundational clue. Elaine may become one of the most powerful Aes Sedai, and her control is still developing beneath her polished surface. 22. Dark friends use specific gestures to identify each other. Several scenes feature background characters making hand motions, seemingly innocuous, until repeated. A tap to the chest, a two-finger stroke across the cheek, or a twist of the wrist while handing over coins. Each occurs in scenes tied to dark friend activity, suggesting a coded language. This idea of secret signs among the Shadows followers is pulled directly from Jordan's attention to spycraft and layered intrigue, and the show hides it in plain sight for attentive viewers to notice. 23. Loial's voice changes in ancient locations. Loial's narration shifts subtly in tone and cadence when in places like Ruidian or Ogier-styled ruins. His voice becomes slower, almost reverent, as if channeling the ancient history he knows so well. This change isn't explained, but it hints at Loial's deep connection to the pattern itself. He's not just a historian, he's a vessel of memory. His presence around forgotten places brings the past into the present, sometimes quite literally. 24. Min's visions include scenes from future seasons. Min Farshaw's abilities are a subtle time bomb. But her Season 3 visions included flashes that haven't yet occurred. A bleeding white tower, wolves circling a flame, and a black sun rising over a battlefield. None of these are explained, but they line up eerily well with scenes of the Shadow Rising and the Fires of Heaven. The show is laying groundwork for major future events without labeling them, rewarding fans who watch carefully. 25. The Waygate architecture matches portal stones. When characters pass through the Waygate, the glyphs on its edges don't just reference the ways, they echo the designs of the ancient portal stones. This detail connects two very different forms of travel through the power. The implications are massive. The show is signaling that the mechanics of time, space, and Tel'aran'rhiod may be closer than anyone realizes, and it all starts with stone circles and what they choose to remember. 26. The Fade that smiles foreshadows a new Forsaken. In one chilling moment, a Myrddraal smiles, a grotesque twist on its usual expressionless face. In the books, this is extremely rare and usually tied to stronger than normal shadow spawn. But in Season 3, the smile coincides with a moment of eerie silence, almost reverent, as the Fade watches a child escape unharmed. Fans have speculated this may indicate a Fade under the influence or direct command of Shadar Heron. If so, the Forsaken are no longer hiding behind proxies, they are walking forward. 27. Isedai Ring colors are not just rank. Look closely at the colors within the Isedai Rings shown in Season 3. Some have subtle undertones, a blue with a faint shimmer of red, a green with flecks of silver. These aren't costume flourishes. They reflect internal conflicts or dual allegiances. A blue sister tinged with red might sympathize with Eleda's vision. A green with silver could be considering joining the kin. The tower's unity is crumbling, and the rings themselves betray it first. 28. The pattern appears in Naniv's Weaves. During Naniv's most intense healing sequences, the show visualizes her weaves not just as strands, but as spirals and loops that mimic the ancient symbol of the Aes Sedai, the yin-yang dragon fang in flame. Her weaves take on symbolic form, mirroring the balance of Satan and Sadar. Naniv doesn't just channel. She reflects the pattern's very architecture in her magic, linking her to the deeper metaphysical forces at play. 29. The Forsaken are using the world of dreams for recruitment. One of the most disturbing subtexts of the season lies in Tel'aran'rhiod. New recruits among the Shadow, especially Dark Friends, are shown hesitating, then waking suddenly with renewed resolve. These aren't just dreams. The Forsaken are using the dream world to manipulate, recruit, and possibly reshape minds. Lanfear's scenes in dreams aren't unique. They're a method. The world of dreams has become a battlefield, and few realize they're already casualties. 30. The last scene isn't just closure, it's a loop. The final shot of Season 3 echoes the very first frame of Season 1. The camera pans across a desolate landscape, then lingers on a rising sun. But this isn't the same place. The light falls in reverse. Birds fly the opposite direction. It's a visual cue that the pattern has completed one loop and begun another. What we thought was a linear narrative is, in fact, a spiral. The wheel turns, and so do we, now watching the second age collapse into the fourth. Season 3 is a Dreamwoven Warning. The deeper message of Season 3 isn't just in the events, but in how we witness them. Dreams blur into waking life. Characters speak of déjà vu. Repeated lines from earlier seasons reappear in strange contexts. This isn't bad writing. It's deliberate design. Tel'aran'rhiod is bleeding into reality, and the show wants us to feel it. The pattern is no longer behaving as it should. Time loops, memory distorts, and in that dreamlike tension, the truth becomes clear. The last battle isn't a single moment. It's already begun. Every hidden detail in Season 3 serves a purpose, not just to surprise or delight, but to disorient, to fracture certainty, and to loosen our grip on what we thought was stable. The Wheel of Time has always been a story rooted in cycles. History repeating, lives reborn, choices echoing through the ages. But in this turning of the wheel, something is different. The rhythm is faltering, the threads are fraying. The echoes that once rang with clarity now distort, bending into unfamiliar harmonies. Season 3 doesn't just push the story forward, it questions the very foundation it stands on. Characters who once walked preordained paths are now breaking them. Prophecies clash, destinies splinter, and even the pattern, a force older than gods, is beginning to forget its own design. The weave trembles beneath the weight of contradictions. The dragon reborn, yet unwilling. The Aes Sedai divided, yet empowered. The Forsaken returned, yet not united. We are witnessing not just the build-up to the last battle, but the unraveling of the metaphysical truth that has governed all previous ages. And so, we are left not with certainty, but with dread, with wonder, with the question no Aes Sedai can answer and no Dreamwalker can foretell. Who writes the next age, when the pattern itself begins to fail? If the wheel falters, who weaves the weaver?